On tonight's show, we are talking eligibility, Thomas. A lot of athletes got that back.
Yeah, not us, but you know what they say, less money, more problems, and that might not be a good thing for the schools.
And we're talking a brand new logo that is just turning the Sunbelt social media world upside down right now.
It's a new look for us. It's a new look for the conference. Let's get to it.
Roll it. On the show tonight, we've got
every night was a battle.
You can lock this in, take it to the bank.
No class at all. It's unbelievable.
They should see a relatively quick turnaround.
Show me the money.
Big water slides, snow cone truck and everything.
One team stands alone.
Well, you know what I think about Troy.
I'm losing my mind over here.
We've got the moment you've all been waiting for.
Of course.
That's right. It's a video podcast. That's basically what we're doing right now, Thomas. I can
Coming
see
to you in living color.
In living color on your screens instead of just through your ears, I guess.
Well, I mean, there are going to be some of you that are listening through your ears, and you're like, what's he talking about? Well, it's because we didn't record in our usual manner this week.
We did not.
Social distancing. We finally got with the program, and now we're in completely different areas, parts of the world.
We are. He's in his room. I'm in my. I guess he's at his house. I'm at my house, and we're doing this through. What the heck? We'll give him a little credit. We're doing this through Skype, and
we have to. There's like a little logo in one of these corners over here.
Oh yeah, there is.
Probably,
so it's branded in. So, but no, social distancing. Just thank you for being here. We are the Bench Boys, and I'm Colin.
I'm Thomas.
And yeah, this is our faces now. A lot of you might not know what we look like, but no, this is something new. This hopefully isn't the new normal, but this is also something really cool that we've finally been able to make work.
Hey, you don't know. This might be the new normal.
It might be the new
video.
Normal.
So
it might be. There's a lot of new normal going on, and especially in the NCAA. So let's just get to that in out the gate.
Out of the gate.
And out the gate, the easy news to talk about this entire week, probably for the next couple of months, is the fact that spring sport athletes got their eligibility or saved their eligibility that they can use next year. That was a huge deal that came out yesterday as voted on by the NCAA. I mean, this is an unprecedented vote that happened yesterday. And for these kids, baseball. What did we talk about? Baseball, rifle. What were some of the other?
Softball,
volleyball. I think was going on too. As
men's volleyball, sport. Yeah.
Men's and women's volleyball, beach volleyball. That was one of our very first episodes. And so all of those kids, all those athletes, they get the chance to have some more time to play college sports. And
right. And before we get any further, winter sport athletes are really out of luck. That's just it. The NCAA said, no, we're not. If your season was even like halfway completed, basketball, I think there might have been a track and field or something in there. Ice hockey is what it was. If you're most of your season's complete, wrestling, you're done. That's it. So bad. Too bad. So long. Get out.
It's a tough break. There's a lot of people that are, whether it ranging from a college athlete to the normal person, like with a job. I mean, everybody is being affected by this pandemic. That has been duly highlighted in a lot of different medias through television, through us talking about it. Everybody's talked about it. And, I was reading an article earlier today that the guy basically said it's not a ripple effect. This is an undertow. And you are in the athletic world, it is an undertow because you're going to get drugged back out and slammed against the shoreline here with all the effects that are still yet to happen. And there's still big things that could still fall. Yes, we talked about the tournament falling. That was a huge thing falling, but there's a bigger domino out there that we don't even want to really speak into existence because we've done that before with the other leagues falling. But college football is that big domino, and I don't want to get into it tonight. But that's what a lot of athletic directors, as I've read all of them, that have done interviews. College football is the next thing, and if college football falls, that's going to be a huge domino for college athletics.
You almost can't talk about this eligibility issue without mentioning that, because we talked about it last time. The biggest problem, and we'll get to more into this in depth in a little bit, is the revenue income, the financial income, the windfall that comes from March Madness. And college football, you said that March Madness was probably the biggest money maker. Football is absolutely the biggest money making sport, not just the
easily.
event. So,
easily. I mean, easily. You talk about, I mean, from TV contracts to pulling people in. I mean, we've highlighted this for seasons of our show already, and football is what everybody is trying to salvage at this point. I mean, when the Tuscaloosa mayor has to come out and say, stay inside or we won't be able to watch the Alabama Crimson Tide. Like, not because stay inside to save lives, it's stay inside so we can actually watch football come fall time. That should tell you the amount of impact it has on a college, on a town that the colleges reside in. I mean, the college football world is its level of the money it brings in is just incredible compared to anything else. I mean, nothing else compares to it in college athletics.
You're right. Like it is there's so much riding on it, so many other things, and I think you hit it best when you said the towns that matter. These smaller towns that happen to have the Monroe, Louisianas, the Troy, Alabamas, the I wouldn't say Jonesboro, but like these smaller towns that have Statesboro, these smaller towns like in the Sun Belt that don't have the major media markets to support it.
Nope.
This is exactly the kind of thing that affects the Sun Belt most.
Yep.
And before we get too far into it, we can go back to the eligibility thing.
Yeah, I was about to. Yeah, go ahead.
It wasn't a smooth transition, but whatever. Well,
this is what I was going to do. I was going to break down kind of what happened here. If you haven't heard, obviously the spring sports, they get their eligibility. We've highlighted that the questions of it, we're going to get into how are they going to be able to afford to do this. But what this does, though, is you have a lot of guys that 4-year guys who are seniors, even 5-year guys who have been in college for 5 years that have maybe played 4 years already. They are all able to get one more year of playing time, which is an unprecedented move for anybody to do. But then that also it's going to create a lot of obstacles that they do. Now, a lot of people were asking about how they're going to how they're financially going to fund this. Like, there's a student or athlete assistance fund that a lot of them, including me, I think a lot of schools are going to try to dip into that. But how much money is there for that? Are we talking a stimulus plan of $2 trillion sitting around? Probably not. Like, so what is, how much are schools really going to be able to dip in and like somehow offset having more athletes there to be on scholarship? And the NCAA said it's going to be up to the schools, which we said they would, to figure out who gets what the size of scholarship there is that the person gets. So you could have a guy that probably had everything paid for his final year, the year before, had room and board paid for, books paid for. They might do a thing where you might have to pay for books next year. Now, our collegiate athletes, are they going to, our college kids, 20-something-year-old kids, are they going to want to say, oh, yeah, I'll come back for another year of school, and, oh, yeah, I'll foot the bill instead of what I had last year? Or do I go on with my career outside of athletics, or go play professionally?
There's a fourth option there with the transfer portal. I wasn't going to bring this one up too much, but I know, as following Troy basketball, it seems like half the team has already entered the transfer portal. And I don't know if it's necessarily an effect of this particular ruling, but I get the feeling we're going to see a lot of Sunbelt players entering the transfer portal just because these schools aren't going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think that's like down the list of things that are just impactful things. I mean, that's going to be a deal. We've seen it already in the Sun Belt with a lot of basketball guys entering into the transfer portal. But it's just, I still can't get over the fact I don't know how they're going to pay for it. I really don't know how they're going to pay for it. And I think that gets into our argument of where's the money going to come from. And now we're talking there's less money coming to schools. I mean, the NCAA also announced yesterday or today the fact that there's going to be $375 million less coming to all these schools. And that is huge. I mean, huge. I'm reading an article from the Philadelphia Inquirer where they interviewed a lot of former athletic directors and former commissioners of conferences, of mid-major conferences. And they are quoting saying $1 million to a mid-major school, that's huge. And the fact that there's going to be conferences that end up missing out on close to $30 million, where instead of them getting $35 million, they're only going to get 15 for the entire conference. I mean, and then you got to split that between 10 to 12 different schools. And then you throw on the fact that, oh yeah, and we're going to let you decide how you're going to pay these extra student athletes that are going to be on your campuses. We're going to let you figure out how to supplement, if they live on campus still and all that stuff. Like there's the schools themselves are behind such an 8 ball right now that I'm not an economic, I don't know. I'm not great at math. I'm a journalist. It's been proven, but I don't know how schools are going to be able to do this. I'm happy that they got the eligibility, but it just, now we've opened up this, so much stuff has to be done now.
And this goes back to previous conversations we've had where we literally looked into the money that these schools are getting. And yes, we looked more into the football side of things, but I think it's pretty safe to still go back to that as a rule of thumb in what these schools are needing. You've got ULM, schools that are literally making the enough to pay the bills with football. It's barely. And that's, they might even football. Be losing money.
Yeah.
You have schools like UTA that don't have football at all that are just happy to get by, but they just lost their biggest moneymaker in basketball. Mm-hmm. So this, I really feel like more than any other conference, this is going to be affecting the Sun Belt a lot. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah, I mean, mid-majors are going to be affected, but you got to think this is the NCAA made this decision. This affects Power Fives. This affects mid-majors.
It does. It absolutely does.
This affects the group of 5. This affects Division 2, Division 3, and those are especially Division 3. That's tuition based. A lot of that stuff is tuition based. That's like enrollment and that stuff. And now they aren't getting the numbers they aren't getting the money down from the NCAA. Those schools are going to be really hit hard, and they're expected to be able to pay more people. It's just like what we said a couple of weeks ago.
It doesn't just go into the scholarships. This is the funding that pays for everything.
Yeah.
Like you don't just funnel all the basketball money to the basketball program.
Mm-mm.
When you are UTA and you have no football team, you funnel the basketball money to the women's basketball, the baseball, the softball, the track and field, all these other sports that you've got.
Yeah.
And so you really kind of have to start figuring out, what am I going to prioritize? What are the sports that are going to come first? What sports matter the most to me? And how can I pay for them before I get to the other sports?
Yeah. And the big domino that we already talked about was the NCAA tournament. The NCAA tournament was big for the mid-majors. That was the tournament that was like guaranteed money basically for them, that they're going to get some sort of money off of this $900 million deal that the NCAA has every single year. That's gone. I mean, that's literally gone. And so they're going to affect with that. That's going to be the big thing that impacts them. What's going to impact the Power 5 schools is what happens with football. And obviously that's still a what if scenario. NCAA's already happened. That's there. It's happened. It's going to affect mid-majors. There is no doubt in my mind that there's going to have to be cuts someplace. There's no way schools can keep up. It's just, And then and we're just talking athletics, Tom. We haven't even started talking about you don't have kids staying on campus. Parents are going to have to get refunds. They're going to have to get prorated. That's millions of dollars in just room and board that they're going to have to pay back. So they're already dealing with that. So they're going to have to try to find cuts someplace. And athletics is where that's going to happen at. It's bound to happen. We've already seen it in the article I was reading from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Temple has already cut 5% of its budget for all of its sports already. We're what, 3 weeks into this thing, and they're already having to cut.
You go and look at the schools with either no football or young football programs, and for the most part, they're all obviously going to be a group of 5 teams. But you get to the South Alabama, you get to the Texas Arlington, you get the storyline that I hear the most when it's, hey, there's a football team that's starting up, or should we start up a football team? It's always pushback from the academic. That's the cliche, is that, oh, we want to focus on academics. We don't need sports. But I mean, for some schools you kind of do. You rely on that. Yeah. But you might be defaulting back to that and having the academics. You are a college. That is what you're set up for. You default back into what it is you were originally set up to do. And the way you make your most money is by just being a college and teaching kids.
Yeah, I mean, just to put it in perspective, I've got some stats here. Division II members will receive 4% of the actual revenues. So currently projected to be about close to $13 million, which is $30 million less. That's all of Division II. Not a conference, all getting $13 million. Division III will receive 3% of actual revenues. So that's close to $10 million, which normally they'd get about 20. It's actually $10 million is $22 million less than what they would get on a normal year. That is huge. I mean, there's also quoting from some articles that I was reading, the smaller conferences. When we're talking $1 million for a small school like that, that pays for a lot of things. And the fact that now you're cutting millions of dollars out of an entire division that you've got to pay a bunch of member schools. It's not going to add up. And I guess back to the point of like eligibility, I know we've kind of turned on to the less money, more problems type thing. I think we've highlighted it pretty well already, that you've just put this responsibility onto schools that it's going to put them in such a bad spot. I mean, I understand you're trying to make the athletes happy. I understand that. But you're going to, this decision is going to put schools in binds that a lot of them, there's no way they aren't going to be able to offer. They are not going to be able to offer the same amount of scholarships to these players, specifically baseball players, that they did the year before. It's just not going to happen. So,
and it makes me wonder, specifically, if I can say the word
specifically,
right? What is going to happen to schools like West Florida and Spring Hill, schools in our backyard? And I think it's worth actually looking more into what would happen with West Florida. Yes, they have a well-known program now. You'd still have people that are like, that's a good program. 2 national title trips in 4 years, and 1 was a win. I might want to go there. So they're still recruiting there. But they're a Division II school. If they're losing all this money that they say they are, they're not getting the scholarships that they say they are. What's going to happen to that program? How are they going to survive? And will they be as competitive as they have been in the last 4 years as a brand new program? Yeah. And I know I keep coming at this from the football perspective, but like
that's
you said,
the domino. I mean,
that's the domino.
Yeah. If football goes, I can't understate the fact of what will happen to college athletics. I mean, it will have such a huge just college and just universities, secondary education, the effects, the ramifications that will have on teachers getting paid, buildings getting built, just bills being paid on time for these universities. There's so much that can happen if that doesn't happen. I mean, when they interview athletic directors that did not want to be named, And they literally, one of them had a list of their 4 things that they were worried about most. The top 3 were no college football, no college football, and no college football. That was their top 3 worries of anything. I mean, I know he's an athletic director, but that is chancellors, presidents are worrying about that at schools, not just athletic directors. So, but I know we're back to being doom and gloom this week, and but it's just how it is. I mean, it
is the nature of the beast. Yeah.
No, it's the nature of the beast, and unfortunately, I think the NCAA again, like I'm really shocked that they made this decision. In my opinion, for them, because of the way they treated the whole conversation of pay the players and that whole deal, and the fact they didn't do anything for the longest time. This seems to be a 180 from how they handled that situation.
Absolutely.
Like just a complete 180, where the reason why they didn't allow anything about any likeness or anything was you say no to everything and nothing. Like you just say no to that simple thing. We don't have any other problems. They could have said no to this. Like, yes, it would have been terrible for athletes. It would have sucked. You lose a lot of work. I mean, it still sucks for basketball players. It still sucks for wrestlers. It still sucks for guys who play ice hockey. They worked their tails off literally their entire season, and all they had left was the time to win a national title, and that's gone. So it sucks for them. Why not just make it suck for all the people this year? It sucks no matter what. And so now we're going to be back discussing this next year. I guarantee it. It'll be in discussions for the next couple of years, to be honest with you. And so it's just a 180 type of decision that you wouldn't think the NCAA would make. I would have thought they would have said, you just got to make a sacrifice.
I have to disagree with you there, just because this is exactly what they would have done. This is exactly the kind of thing that they would do. When it came to the paying your players issue, they did say no, but they passed the buck. They said, we're not doing that. Somebody else can do that. In this case, they're doing the same thing. The knee-jerk reaction was to save face with PR, because they literally had just shut down the March Madness. There was nothing worse that they can do. And you think of it from a PR standpoint, you may as well just throw somebody a bone. Yeah. But what did they do? They passed the buck. They put it back on the schools. Oh, yeah. Y'all figure it out.
Yeah, and I mean, I know people are saying, well, schools are part of the NCAA. Yes, they are members of the NCAA. It was enacted by the Division I Council, which has, I think, 32 members on it. One representative from each conference in Division I and Power 5, Division I. You have representatives from Division II. You have athletic directors. You've got board of commissioners from different conferences. You actually have students that are on this. You have chancellors that are on this board. Yes, they made votes, but there's how many schools in this country? There's 357 Division I schools just in Division I. And so you have 357 different schools. Not every school is the same. That should be a point. And so just because you have 32 people voting on it and agreeing on it, and I'm sure it wasn't a unanimous vote to give only spring athletes. I'm sure they tried to meet in the middle of some sort between all of these people, but it's just this decision. I don't know. I'm glad athletes have eligibility, but in the schools, I think it's going to affect more athletes than just 1 year. I mean, we're talking 1 year of an athlete. Yes, it sucks that it was you, but now this is going to affect 2022, 2023, 2024. It's going to affect all of those athletes. And so that to me, that I guess that's my argument, is this the sacrifice of 1 year's worth of athletes that, okay, sucks. You don't get your eligibility, or the next 3 years, because that's what I think it's going to do. So, but
and I think the end point of this is, yes, it's going to stink, but in a way they mitigated the damage, and they only put it on baseball, softball, and the spring sports. Because if they had done this to winter sports, if they had given who's the big Auburn player, the guy who's leaving for the draft. If they had given any basketball players, Dayton's basketball players, they come back another year, and that's going to throw the big money-making event off track. Yeah. But with baseball, they can get away with a lot more changing and moving, and with fewer sports and with fewer income revenue sports, it's as little of an effect as they possibly could make.
Yeah, I'm sure they had some sort of accountant in there or some sort of
one would hope
some sort of advisor in there that would tell them, okay, this is how many people that we could probably budget. Like, they did their homework. I don't want to say that they just pushed the paper out to schools, but there's just the responsibility that schools have now. And they're going to be in a lose-lose situation because you're not going to be able to offer everybody the same thing. So, go
ahead.
No, I was just going to wrap it up. I think that's it's a very bittersweet day. I don't know if that's like too cliche, but that's kind of how I view it in terms of athletic directors.
I mean, but you're also not wrong. So, Yeah. Basically, I think the bottom line there is everything is going to look different. The conferences are going to look different. The teams are going to look different, just in one way or another when we come to the spring sports next year. Now, you know where I'm going with this.
Oh, God. Oh, I see.
Right? You didn't even know. You didn't even realize I was doing this.
The master of transitions.
I try. Yeah. We are more than likely going to have a new look conference coming up in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
When they may say anything, we don't know. But let's talk about it in Around the Belt.
Around the Belt.
That's right. If you have been on Twitter the past 2 or 3 days, you have likely seen my handiwork.
Investigation, I think.
Yes. Well, our investigation.
Yes.
The guys over at the Trojan Wall and Alyssa was a part of it too. So basically, the story of it is this picture was posted onto the message boards, Sunbelt message boards by a guy named Joe Jag. He got a screen grab from South Alabama's Junior Day broadcast. They went live. They didn't have like a senior day or anything. They had a junior day where I guess they fielded questions and walked around and showed off the building. But when they went into the practice facility, it was pretty obvious that the normal pinwheel Sunbelt logo was not there. If you go back and watch it, you can actually go see it on their Facebook page right now. It should still be up. But like, you got Coach Campbell walking around there, and it's in the background there. And then they go upstairs to the part where they can look over on the field, and they swing the camera by, and you get the shot where they grab the screen grab of the new logo just in the field. And so this person was like, is this a new logo for the Sunbelt? Is this a new branding identity for it? And I just happened to not be in town that moment. So Alyssa and I grabbed everything up and ran over there, and come to find out, you standing outside the gates, you can see in the middle of the field where that logo would be. It is very much not the pinwheel. It is very much that picture that is there. It is not the pinwheel. It is that logo. And so I ran home, we ran home. I didn't leave Alyssa there, but she let me use her computer, and I pulled up and put together basically what I could the best way I could appropriate it, a representation of what I saw on the field. And then I went ahead.
Pretty well.
Thank you. It's not exact. I know it's not perfect, but like,
very good.
People were like, wait till we see it in other teams' colors. And I'm like, okay, let me just do that.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then later on in the day, one of our writers at the Trojan Wall just happened to be in touch with somebody at Troy, a source at Troy, and they basically confirmed to him, that actually is supposed to be the thing. So between Trojan Wall and Alyssa and I driving around on a Sunday afternoon, we pieced the whole thing together, and it actually blew up more Monday and Tuesday than it did on Sunday, which is surprising to me. But it's funny because there are people that'll go, and it's like, no, dude, I just drew something based on all at the field. But I mean, it is what it is. It's out there for sure. I can tell you, I saw it with my own eyes, what was on the field there, and it is not the Pinwheel logo. Beyond that, I can't make anything that's not an assumption or just I guess exaggeration. So
yeah, I mean, one good investigation by you. I'm sure that was really fun to do.
Oh, yeah, it's fun for sure.
I mean, this is. You would have thought there would have been some sort of like. I mean, we haven't really reached out to the Sunbelt offices or anything.
No.
But they probably have a little bit more going on their hands. With,
right.
Than their logo. I mean, that's their brand, though. I mean, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal to see a major conference changing its look. And again, that's an assumption on our part. The only thing that I can do is put together pieces of the puzzle. If you look at where this picture was found, it's South Alabama. They got a brand new stadium. They got a brand new field. So, of course, they're not going to put an old logo on it. Why would you do that? Why not just go ahead and put the logo on it rather than go ahead.
The interesting thing for me is that there's that logo is there.
Yes.
But there is no, like, from their statement, they released a statement about the eligibility literally March 30th, so it would have been earlier this week. They still use the pinwheel.
Well, of course.
So obviously they aren't ready to push it out yet.
There was no way for them to be ready for this.
Yeah.
And I don't think, to come at it from two perspectives. First of all, obviously the coronavirus pandemic affecting everything is the number one reason they didn't say anything, and that they won't say anything until the time is right. I mean, I understand it, and it's completely it's just the right thing to do is to not address it whatsoever. But second of all, if this were normal operations, if there was no coronavirus, if Duke did end up winning the March Madness or whatever, it's not like they would be releasing anything about it anyway. Even if this had leaked and we were under normal circumstances and we were still waiting on baseball to happen, I don't think they would have said anything about it, period. I think
it's a summer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, all signs kind of point to Media Day anyway, because, I mean, you're going to be out of school anyway. You're going to have people coming by at that point, and you're going to have to be making materials with the logos on it. And so that's the best time for everything to turn over before summer, or excuse me, football.
Yeah, before football season. Yeah. I think just talking about the rebrand, I don't want to call it a rebrand. It's just, I think it's just the next step. I don't think this conference didn't need a rebrand. We're going up. We talked about that. But just the change in the logo, obviously, we heard from, Ben Whitehead, been on sports big time. I mean, and it was so funny, even today, like, there's some construction going on from my apartment complex, and giant truck, Sunbelt Rentals. And so he posted that picture, and I'm like, so this morning I see it and I'm like, oh wow. Like, but that's like, and it looks eerily similar. I mean, there's just like a sun, obviously, but it's still this, like, I mean, we've posted online the comparisons of the two, and maybe they want to get away from that. Maybe they want to be different. I mean, there's what major conferences have you really seen change their logo in the last 5 to 10 years?
It really only happened with expansion, which is a fun theory that I know some of our friends at Forgotten Five are like joking about, but I I think that's hitting the nail on the head. I think Ben hit the nail on the head with that, because there's so many open doors to that legally. And I know for a fact that our buddy, and we'll have to ask him about this, friend of the show, Troy Athletic Director Brent Jones, he was at Southern Miss when that logo swapped over. He was working there when that logo, so he might, I don't know if he has any experience with that. We'll have to ask him about that and compare the two here. But I bet you he has more working knowledge of the ins and outs of this process than anything. And he probably could tell you, yeah, this is a very similar thing. Iowa set up Southern Miss. Iowa sued Southern Miss over how similar their logo looked, and you would know as an Iowa fan.
Oh, yeah.
And then so Southern Miss redid their logo. That's exactly what happened. And I guarantee you, if anything, this is preventative. This is a preventative move from the conference to prevent anything from falling back on them.
Yeah. No, I think it's fresh. We have a new commissioner. I mean, I was talking to you earlier this week about, that, like, that's a big deal. I mean, this isn't like a small corporation that you're changing. This is an entire conference. This is your logo. This is your brand. This is your image. And maybe he came in here and I mean, this is about being different. That's, and we've constantly talked about how the smaller conferences, the smaller schools, they have to be different. They have to show that we are more progressive than the old tried and true, the Big Tens, the Pac-12s, which was the Pac-10 at one point, until they rebranded, and the Big 12s and the SECs. We got to be different than them. So let's change something up. And so that's he's kind of like a general manager coming in. He's going to change some things up. He's going to see what happens, and we're going to go from there. And I think this is obviously he's not the only one making this decision. There's a board and everything, but I'm sure a lot of it's coming through him. Just talking with people in that office in the first week of this was me just talking with somebody that was in the Sunbelt office. They were talking about all of the things that they are looking at doing, from expanding social media to just the freshness, and kind of not the fact that they were kind of stalled out, like lacking, but the fact that there's so many good ideas coming, and he is all about that. I mean, he is all about trying something new and taking steps, taking jumps, and being out of the box, which I don't want to say the last guy wasn't, but he seems a lot more adept to taking that step. So this might be one of them.
I think part of it is that's the kind of thing that happens when somebody gets I guess promoted to the next level, because he's never been a conference commissioner like this.
The first African American. Yeah, right. I mean, he was the first. Like, no, he's never been at the head of a conference. So
he was an associate commissioner. He was running, I think, basketball or something.
A10.
And finances, and so he's good with the money and he's good with the financials. But like, but when somebody like that happens, you get this burst of energy. I mean, the easiest thing for me to say as a Troy fan is to look at Scott Cross and Neil Brown. What did we talk about when they came in? A new energy, a new excitement around the program. Maybe he's doing that same thing in the corporate offices at the conference. And I mean, obviously this decision came across his desk. So I think the motives are perfectly, I obviously have no problem with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, it's been very interesting to watch the investigation unfold, and it was fun to watch. And then obviously just the pickup of your work that you did. I don't know the copyright thing there, but we'll get into that later. But just the fact that you kind of took upon and created something, I think that kind of helped kind of fuel it a little bit. And no, it was definitely fun watching, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this for the next couple of weeks. Just trying to figure out, is it official yet? When is it official? When's the move going to happen? So,
real quick, there is no copyright thing to it. It's,
okay.
We'll call it fan art. Call it what you want.
Okay, that works.
I know there are going to be a lot of differences between what I did and the final version that we inevitably see.
Yeah.
Part of that's on purpose, part of that's limitations, but like I tried to represent what I saw.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's good. So, all right. Well, yeah, with that, we've got one more thing to talk about. We got some quick hitters, so let's just get into it.
Quick hitters.
And finally, some quick hitters just to finish up the episode tonight. The NFL draft, we're like 3 weeks away from it. It's basically we're in early April here. A lot of things have been canceled, but they are still full go on the NFL draft. They are going to somehow figure this out. I don't know how, since considering they're going to have 32 teams there, unless they're going to somehow do a Zoom meeting and get 32 boxes of people there. I don't know how they're going to do, like, because you're not allowed to have more than 10 people now in a room. So that'll be interesting. But they're doing some cool things already that they announced that. So for on the day of NFL draft, the players aren't going to be there. Like there's literally going to be nobody walking across that stage and grabbing a jersey and taking their picture with it, and guys crying and all that stuff. Like
it's in the
there is no in Las Vegas.
Yeah, there's no gondola. No. It's just going to be an empty gondola rolling up, and the commissioner leans over and picks up the thing and says, "First pick, Joe Burrow," puts it back down. The gondola just keeps going.
Yeah, no, there's going to be no green room, so there will be nobody like Aaron Rodgers hanging out in the green room or anything like that. But it's just kind of some cool things I was reading. The NFL has begun inviting top prospects to participate virtually in next month's draft. Those communications continue, and all 50-plus draft picks are supposed to be basically involved via video, social media, etc., some other things. Just no trips for Las Vegas, but players and families will receive a draft package. So I wonder what's part of the draft package. That'll be interesting. And there's a letter that was sent out. It said, "Our plan is to connect with you, with the NFL fans watching the draft live from around the world directly from your home." So I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of guys at the houses, a lot of film crews filming these guys. So yes, the NFL's newest players will join the league, and hashtag stay at home is the thing. So, but there's still frustration, like what we were kind of saying earlier, is they're like, how are you gonna do this? I mean, you've got 32 teams that are going to be represented there. Even if you have one representative from each team that's in that room, that's in Las Vegas, you're still over the threshold that the CDC has for people, at an event or something like that. So there's a lot of hoops that they have to figure out, but Goodell's like, no, we're doing it. That's a big deal for them. So
the number one thing that gets the reason I think it's fine, nothing's going to be really different, is if you see video of really old drafts in the 70s and 80s, you see rooms with bunches of telephones, and that's pretty much the same way that they do them now. Like recruiting, they have their war room where everybody's in there. They got their whiteboard, who they're picking, and then they got the red Batman phone. They're gonna pick it up and call the commissioner and tell him who we're picking. That's not what bothers me. What makes me interested in everything is what is in the draft bag, what is in the draft package.
The package.
Right? Are you gonna get 32 different, a jersey for each team with your name on it?
32 hats. 32
are you getting
shirts.
your own little camera and lighting setup like I have here? Are you gonna be live streaming yourself for ESPN?
Yeah.
What's going on? How much is it, and what are you getting out of it?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, but I mean, they've got the money, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, so that was our little quick hitter, and I think. Is that it for you? I don't think we got anything else.
Me.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's been fun. Little video podcasting going on here.
Trying to get used to this. Yeah.
Puts a little bit more pressure on us, that little light. We're in television, but it's that whole thing.
I actually had to wash my hair this morning.
Yeah,
so,
I had to put on an actual polo. So normally we just.
You did.
You saw all of that. My wife did make me. We'll just put that into the record right now. But no, this is really fun. We've already started talking about getting interviews through this, just because we've been testing out. Can we add a third person on this, and we have the capabilities. So be looking out in the future that we might do more of this, just because this is some
this
cool
is what
one.
we're gonna have to do.
This is the new normal, and the new normal might not be that bad for this type of stuff. But it's gonna definitely be fun, obviously. But while you're here, hit that subscribe button. You might now, if you hit that subscribe button now, you're gonna have another option. We're gonna have some sort of video podcast now on somewhere on our social media, from our Twitter, which is at the OG Bench Boys, to Anchor, to Spotify, iTunes, everything. We're gonna have so many options, so many ways for you to watch this podcast, listen to this podcast, and so that's gonna be the cool thing, is this brand new aspect into, and we're 2 years in, a year and a half in, almost 2 years in to doing this. So it's definitely something cool. So you got anything?
If you are watching us
Yes.
on YouTube,
Oh yes,
go
on
ahead.
YouTube too.
That's right.
Hit
There are gonna
that
be little
subscribe
linky doos or something like somewhere on this screen.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't figured it out yet, but I'll remember for next time, like where they're
There you
supposed to be.
Yeah.
You can hit subscribe on YouTube now too. And all the people listening on the podcast are like, "Oh, dude, I gotta go watch them on YouTube."
Boom.
Now you can.
Now you can. You can see Thomas Gleaton's sweet setup that he has, and you can see these two pitiful footballs that I have over my shoulder as well, because I was not really ready for this. But no, it's definitely cool, and I'm excited for this opportunity to be able to do this. So with that,
social
give us a
media,
follow.
subscribe, follow us, tell your friends.
We're on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
If you still have that.
Oh, we're still doing our brackets.
Yes, and we're working on our brackets.
Bracket.
We're gonna get those. We're gonna get those filled out here pretty quick. We've pretty much cut down ones that don't need to be in it, and so now we're figuring out seating wise, and hopefully we have that out by the end of the week, maybe in the weekend, and we can get that done, and we can have some fun with that. See who comes out with the best. What was the best game of the 2019 athletic season?
Go ahead and follow us on Twitter too, because we got a giveaway coming up soon.
Yes,
you
we
won't
do
wanna
have a
miss it.
giveaway.
We do.
Yep. So with that, wash your hands and come on back.